the UK has robust measures in place to manage the risk posed by terrorist offenders released from prison and those involved in terrorism-related activity in the community. And finally tonight, a UK ticket holder has won the €177 million Millions jackpot, becoming the third biggest national lottery winner of all time, the operator Allwyn said. The win has landed the winner a spot on the National Lottery's rich list, and players are being urged to check their tickets. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. Let's go to Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headlines. I'm sure that chap cannot pronounce alerts correctly, can he? That's strange. What's an alert? A news alert?
It's Canadian.
Maybe it just comes through my ear like that. Anyway, let's have a look at Wednesday's top stories this evening. We have three comedians, myself, Josh and Steve, and we will have a quick look at the front pages to warm us up. We have The Telegraph, electric vehicle rules may be watered down. That sounds dangerous. Toaster in the bar syndrome. Mail, Labour's net zero electric car plan in chaos. A more vivid imagination of the issues. The Eye have weight loss jabs for the jobless in Labour drive to get people back to work. That sounds pretty dystopian. The Sun, Coke ref in bet probe. That was a great fun video that circulated last week and is now making the headlines. The Express, Christmas dinner hits £50 after budget mess. That is a story directly from my own home. And Daily Star, Incredible Hulk. Not sure what the story is, but it's a great picture. So we'll kick off with the Mail, Steve.
Yeah, they've got the best little cheesy bit at the top, you know, their lifestyle nonsense inside. It says, woman whose husband had a vasectomy because she won't have a baby in a world she's convinced faces climate oblivion. I don't think that's why he had a vasectomy.
No, it's the quality of the husband.
Is that what it is? Yeah. No, I imagine he'd looked at this situation and was like, I do not want to have kids in this relationship.
It's her choice, rather. It's her choice, not his.
It's his vast difference.
No, but he's been bullied into it. He has been... This is very much the distaff side of the relationship.
My take is that he's looked at that and been like, I don't want kids with this person.
Somebody's had a look at Josh with his 5 kids and have thought that is more than enough.
Look, they're just seeing the ageing process happen in real time.
Funnily enough, though, there's another story, I think we're doing it later, which has been bubbling under for the last couple of days, about the number of women who are having children alone now as well. So we are entering a curious new world, a brave new world of possibilities. Yeah. What's the main story on the Daily Mail?
Labour's net zero electric car plan in chaos, because they've got these rules in place that manufacturers have to knock out 28% of the cars that they sell have to be e-vehicles, which is all very well if people wanted to buy them to that level.
Yeah, or are allowed to build a driveway in which they can charge them. That's
or have a really long cable that goes out down the street. Well, you have to tape it down, health and safety gone mad. But, well, I don't know why we don't just have market forces doing it. Like, if the situation was that the car manufacturers had to make electric cars so good that 28% of people wanted to buy them, we'd all have better cars.
Or if they would install the infrastructure. Very seriously, that is mainly what people are worried about. People don't like to go more than, like, down to the shops with an EV because they might get stranded.
Well, it's the double whammy, isn't it? The cars don't go as far as a petrol one, and the gaps between where you refuel are further.
On the other hand,
gets fixed.
They are great for delivering milk in the morning.
Yes.
Absolutely silent.
So, that's not going to sell 28% of them, is it?
No.
So, look, I mean, maybe it'll be a numbers game. One option would be to give away a free electric car with every petrol car, and you could get around this.
So, basically, I mean, this is like a lot of the world of Ed Miliband, isn't it? It's very similar to the way that we price everything according to the price of gas now or something. Things are always tethered to other things. You're not allowed to just, like, sell as many of a vehicle as you would like to sell.
Yeah, it's not trusting the free market. No. But this, of course, was a policy that came through under the Tories, although Labour have escalated it from 2035
They've taken it and harnessed it to an electric vehicle.
Yeah, that runs out of steam.
Yeah.
And that's basically what's happened here. So, yeah, I mean, you know, we've got a factory closing down.
Vauxhall, right?
Yeah, Vauxhall. I mean, that might be a coincidence.
Vauxhall was, like, absolutely iconic in the Hertfordshire region.
That just shows you how dated they are. But
fair.
You just were trying to get yourself a free Vauxhall there before.
A bloke up nearly opposite us, just up the road a bit, worked in Vauxhall, had a Lotus outside the house, outside the council.
And I forgot for a second that you are the driveway guy now.
Yeah.
Do people shout driveway at you as you're walking down the road?
Muppet. Yeah. You got mugged off. Yes, mixed sympathy. Yeah. Anyway, But you're absolutely right. It is chaos. Well, you say you're right. I don't know whether you did say that. It was.
Let's just assume.
It is fair to acknowledge that the Tories got this ball rolling, and there is no one you can vote for. Very much as with most of the other terrible policies the last 20 years, there is nobody who will set their face against this stuff now.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're keeping the policy, but they're going, well, we won't do the fines. Well, we're just not going to have a car industry.
Yeah.
I mean, Labour came in. The point was they should be closing factories. That's the point. There's less labour going on.
I'll tell you what, though, I've got a 6-year-old BMW diesel
Humble brag.
is obviously going to be worth a lot more money now because nobody's making new ones, right?
Yeah, I suppose scarcity will be one.
Swings and roundabouts. Let's have a look at the Telegraph.
Yeah, well, they've got the same thing. Electric vehicle rules may be watered down. They have a picture of Prince of Wales there.
Prince of Drones, which doesn't work as a pun, does it? They
no.
need Game of Thrones or Prince of Wales?
No, you can't mix it together. But I mean, they've missed out. The big thing about him is he's got this beard now.
Yeah.
And he's looking very handsome. I think the beard, look, three balding men with the beards.
I would wear the beret.
Acolytes of his, really.
Would you not wear the beret if you could get away with it?
Absolutely,
They really do, They look rugged.
I mean, he looks good, and he's got like a bulletproof vest or something like that on. So, no,
he's got a plate vest.
He's looking hot.
Yeah.
He's looking good for him.
Yeah.
Good, well done.
Things are finally going his way.
Yeah. In other news, businesses may face more tax raids despite Reeves' pledge. So,
Reeves pledged the least popular polish on the market.
So, she's like, OK, she's taxed some businesses 25 billion. Yeah. And she's going, no, that's it. We're not going to do anything like that. And now a cabinet minister said, well, if we do it, it won't be as bad as that. There's more money to be milked.
It's a great argument, isn't it? We won't do any more taxing. Well, we're not saying any more taxing. We won't do the same amount of taxing that we've just done. It'll probably be less than that, but that's some.
Now, can I just point to a very small story, which is on the bottom of the Telegraph page, which has already been shrunk. You probably cannot read beyond the headline. But Sumption, NCHIs are used to settle grudges. I don't suppose you brought a magnifying glass.
No, I did. Yeah, I did read that. I mean,
He's my favourite judge, Sumption.
Oh, really? Is that what?
Scrumptious.
Scrumptious. Yeah, I mean, of course, it's so obvious that if you're just going to put this thing out there that you could... I mean, we've got an insane story. This story has been done a little bit, maybe too much. I mean, it's important, but there's more that's coming out. The story we have later, I think, is possibly the most insane of the lot.
Yep.
But it's so obvious. Of course they're going to be using this. The other thing that's tiny in there is Israel agrees ceasefire deal with Hezbollah.
Made the news.
Yeah, so, that's good.
That would be good, wouldn't it? I don't know how they communicate, not by mobile or by pager. I don't know what the...
I don't know if any Hezbollah are left.
They've been having to do it second-class mail.
Let's have a look at the... what have we got? The Express now, Josh. These are all in the wrong order on my lap, but
looking
at the Express.
Xmas dinner hits £50 after budget mess.
Not Xmas, say Christmas. Say
what it says.
I'm not allowed to say...
That is
I'm not allowed to say
the
C word. I'm not allowed to say the word C word. My rabbi will complain.
It's not an X, it's a Greek letter.
Tenmus.
Yeah. Not the Roman letter.
Tenmus dinner. That's actually 1,000 ass.
I wanted to ask you about that. Somebody said the other day, you speak to an alien with 4 fingers and he works in what we call base 4, and we say, oh, but you work in base 4, and he goes, no, I work in base 10, because it's still 10 to him. Is that true?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
You'd reset it, yeah.
I mean, we mustn't waste too much time on it, but I immediately thought of you when I saw
language would be, but people think base is that, the numbers mean the same. It's just how we look.
It's just a word, but to him that would be, absolutely.
We wouldn't have the word 10,
We're going to have to set up a little video explainer on a parallel channel with the red button. Anyway, Christmas dinner for 50 quid. What's the story, Josh?
Thick. But I'll trust that made sense.
You can imagine a 2-fingered alien, a 4-fingered alien.
I will do. I don't know what's going on now. But yes, I do know. I can say, Christmas dinner hits £50 after budget mess. And of course, this is more Labour's budget consequences, and this is sending up food prices.
How, though? I mean, they haven't taxed food, have they?
I'm imagining... No, but if they're taxing the companies like Tesco and whatever, then they're going to have to increase their prices to pay for the national insurance. That's the part.
I think it's a bit thin. I'm not sure about it.
Well, not only is it so thin, what they're saying, just to boil it down, is that Christmas 2024 will be more expensive due to the tax rise in April 2025.
Yeah.
It's not like you have... Next Christmas, I'd buy it more, but this Christmas is 50 quid more expensive. But no, the tax hasn't gone in yet. The national insurance goes...
But you know what? It's not. It's 50 quid more expensive. It's just 50 quid.
Yeah.
That's cheap, isn't it? If you, depending on how much.
Yeah, but it might be each. I don't know.
If you're doing a lamb...
You would be astonished, maybe not, how much you can pay for an organic turkey from a butcher, where the ones where they make you stand in the drizzle and the rain and the sleet for about half an hour before you're even allowed in the shop.
Someone lives in Brighton.
Yeah. Oh, it's my wife's favourite part. Anyway, we'll just draw attention once again. Prince William looking quite hot on the front of the Daily Express, but if you're a real fan, I would stick with the Telegraph, would you say?
Yeah, that's
hot without the drone.
If I was gay, that's the photo I would use.
And talking of which, finally, the Incredible Hulk.
I can take this one. He might get a job working in Donald Trump's government, because it's been dished out. People were saying he's just giving out jobs to TV presenters. Not true. There was a wrestler, and that's another wrestler. And I don't think this is a good appointment because what's his name, Hulk Hogan, famously turned down the opportunity to have a grill. George Foreman then got it, and the George Foreman grill was
Did
like
he
the
miss
biggest
the Hulk Hogan
he
grill?
Turned it down. Don't trust a word he said.
I don't like those. We got one of those grills, but I like the fat. I don't want it to drain away. I
just
feel
sit
annoyed.
at the bottom of it.
Can I tell you something possibly quite interesting, genuinely, about Hulk Hogan and his connection with Trump? Do you know what the link is? And this is actually the man that nobody is talking enough about in the sort of secret, the eminence grise behind the power behind the Trump throne. Peter Thiel. He's not unknown. Peter Thiel is in Silicon Valley venture capitalist. Put the first billion into Facebook. He's enormously wealthy. He used to know Elon Musk back in the PayPal days. They diverged, but they remain in touch. He developed Vance as a prospect for political purposes. So Vance is very much his artifact. Thiel is his mentor. Thiel is a really intelligent guy. He's openly gay, which is quite unusual in venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, especially among those who support Trump. And he seems to be the power behind the throne. And he funded a very famous high-profile court case in which Hulk Hogan sued and destroyed a website called Gawker about 10 years ago, who had been spreading malicious rumours about Hulk Hogan's personal life or whatever. I can't remember the details.
Wasn't there like a sex tape or something?
Yeah, I think
there was a rumour that he was offered the George Foreman grill, and now I'm worried that I've...
Yeah, no, you may have fallen for that. But anyway, Peter Thiel funded that because he hated Gawker, because they'd also come for him, I think possibly his private life as well. At that time, he'd been less happy to have it revealed. And he is the one who has, I'm absolutely certain, has brought Hulk Hogan into the conventions in which Donald Trump was supported by Hulk Hogan, ricking his shirt on and all that. It's essentially a Peter Thiel cabinet that you're seeing forming around Trump.
The saddest thing is where he tried to rip the T-shirt, and it didn't go.
Yeah. But that was the problem, because it was made in America. And the quality was too good.
Absolutely. You can't get through an American neckline. You've got to get a nick in it.
If it got made in China, that would have just ripped apart. That's fake news, by the way.
Maybe with the tariffs coming in now, the qualities will decline. Anyway, that's all the front pages, folks, and an interesting monologue by me. Still to come, why withholding benefits will only provoke them, Maloney flashes the fash, and why a non-crime hate incident could be easily obtained, easier than you think. That is Headliners Part 2 coming up on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Millions are struggling to stay warm with the wet weather, the cost of living and, of course, cuts to fuel payments.
Yes, winter is fast approaching, so it's crucial to find cost-effective ways to save on your energy expenses while staying reasonably warm.
So joining us to provide advice on heating your home, or at least staying warm somehow, is one of the leading voices on lowering energy bills, Nick Miles. And you are very welcome in here this morning. I mean, a lot of people would say, well, in the olden days, you just used to put on an extra jumper. But actually, it's more serious than that, isn't it? What is the best way, the most cost-effective way to keep your home warm?
Some of the bigger things is we need to do more things on insulating our properties, but actually sometimes, it can be simple things like turning down a thermostat. Those that have got the luxury of being able to afford energy bills and keep their homes on the thermostat a bit too high. If you just turn it down by one simple degree, as long as you keep it between 18 and 22 degrees, can save up to 5 to 10% of your energy bill. So that's a kind of a very simple way of doing things, but it can be other little tips and tricks you can do as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I always get it when people say about this, but like 18 degrees is not warm for a house.
No, and it's twofold actually. It's that kind of relative temperature, but also it's the kind of drafts and things you have in your house. So it's the comfort factor. So what we have a lot of old properties in our country. You've got some 8 million hard-to-treat properties built before World War II that are have got poor insulation, but also very, very drafty. So it's the temperature and it's the kind of the draftiness of them that kind of keeps us uncomfortable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. I have Steve N. Allen and Josh Howie with me, and we're going to have a look inside the newspapers now. We kick off, Steve, with the Mirror, who are not afraid to propagate straightforward mob-style protection racket violence threats to maintain welfare handouts.
Yep, removing DWP benefits could push people into crime to make ends meet voters fear. Almost half of voters think that removing benefits could lead to more crime. So that story again, over half of voters disagree with this headline.
Yes.
But still, it's important that they sell the one that they want. But you can follow the logic. You've got some benefits. You refuse to work, so it gets cut. How are you going to get the things your benefits would have bought you? You could turn to crime. Normally the next step would be you'd have a system in a country where a force somehow polices it, and that's the end of that story. But literally the idea is that crime, you shouldn't then just be the go-to option. You're meant to stop crime by having like a legal system.
It's like trying to use a plunger on a sink and not covering the overflow, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
A bit like that. I mean, I've had a busy weekend. But the shoplifting thing, of course, I suppose ties in with this, that people are concerned that, we have to put stakes and shaving kit inside heavy-duty plastic boxes now.
There might be people on the dole who also are shoplifters. Going off the dole or being kicked off the dole doesn't make it more likely. I mean, I think they're trying to create this sort of Les Miserables vibe of we're stealing loaves.
John's, the streets are
stealing a loaf of bread, and that's what we're going to do. I think it's very disrespectful to people who are
career criminals, have put some work in. Yeah.
All the people who are just if they're unemployed.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is... I mean, look, we've got a friend of ours that Daniel Blake, and we... you watch this
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the point was that system was...
He was a Geordie, though.
He was a Geordie, yeah. But it was like, the system can be cruel.
Yeah.
When it's just, like, impersonal. And there is a danger here that whilst we absolutely have to cut down these billions that are being spent, and there are definitely going to be people who are just deciding not to work and are sort of feigning. I know I've got mates of mine, actors, who feign mental health issues or whatever it is and on benefits.
A lot of people just haven't come back mentally from furlough, have they? They've just never really returned to, like people don't come back from the war.
So I think it's being exploited, basically.
I do agree with you. I think the key thing always has to be with benefits, make it clear, make it obvious, make it transparent, make it quick, make it efficient, make it reliable and predictable and fair, rather than making it gameable and then subject to all kinds of, regional differences.
But this is the problem with all stories. The headline is trying to be the beefiest version of the actual story. The story actually says most of the people in the survey want the numbers to go down. They just want people to get help to get back into work, and everyone does. Even Mel Strider, when he was in charge of this, all the headlines on the Telegraph were like, "Oh, he'll force it." He was coming up with plans for talking therapy to solve mental health crises to get people into work. No one's been nasty about it.
I'm afraid to say, and I really do mean this seriously, the Mirror is an absolute rag and has been for a number of years now. It's hard left and it is distinctly divisive.
But it's hard left without even the sort of finances to push it. Sorry, there's 72% said that they support providing skills and training to the unemployed, which means that you've got 47% who are... But no, seriously, who are the 28% who don't want people to get training?
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
Push on. We've got more blood pressure to get up with various other angles of attack. The Daily Mail, Josh, now, and some years into her premiership, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is finally starting to flex her much-vaunted fascist credentials.
Yeah, Giorgia Meloni claims there is a higher incidence of immigrants in rape cases in Italy before accepting, now I will be called a racist. This is for an Italian women's magazine called Donna Moderna, Monday, Tuesday. And of course, this article can't help itself and go, but actually more native-born Italians actually commit rape and whatever. But
per capita.
Per capita, yeah, exactly. That's not... So... We have the numbers in this country to be able to explore this. I don't know what it is, but the fact is the government are very deliberately hiding these numbers.
You know that
from
Scandinavian countries have kept detailed records,
Yes.
and they're the ones that people go to. Denmark it couldn't be more unambiguous. Yeah,
yeah, and it's not, you know, it's a cultural issue of how women are treated in some
and
countries.
Also, to be as fair as I possibly can, you know, if you're a single man and you come over to the country and you have no means of networking, of meeting women through legitimate means as well, I think that might be an issue. I don't know whether
Turns you into a rapist.
Yeah, I think.
It will elevate the risk that you, in the same way that the Mirror are happy to say if you don't get your dole, you might resort to thieving. I think if there's no legal and safe routes to female company, which I'm not saying the country can do that, but if you don't provide an infrastructure which can integrate people quickly enough, then that's what will happen.
I think morals is missing out of that flow diagram of thoughts.
History tells you otherwise, sadly.
Well,
I hate to be Donald Trump about it, but that's the way it's always been.
But so this story comes down to...
Look at soldiers, including English soldiers. Sometimes.
But this story comes down to absolute versus relative figures, which I think is the thing you're pointing at. So you think, OK, let's look at it. 80% they mention in here of the crimes they're talking about were committed by Italian nationals. So that leaves, you know, 20% left.
But they're talking about femicides, and they actually deliberately, like, sort of conflate the two, which is really annoying, one of those things they do.
Yeah, but you can then look at the population and realise they're talking about illegal migrants. The latest stats I managed to Google was 670,000. It's nearly 60 million in the country, so it's way less than 20%.
1%.
So it would be, and you shouldn't be racist for looking at numbers and going, here's what the stats would suggest.
Meloni should probably have forwarded the numbers immediately and said, before anyone calls me racist, let me back this up with some statistics.
Yeah, and I don't know why you wouldn't. I mean, even she's saying, like, I'm going to be called racist now. You already were. Why not do the numbers first?
Absolutely. Anyway, she's still... But no, that's right. Anyway, Steve, over to the Express now. And having failed to leave the ECHR, the Tories and Reform now watching horror as a whole new raft of lefty lawyers are being groomed to thwart any future hopes of ever deporting a single illegal migrant.
Labour's asylum legal aid plan bankrolling lefty lawyers sparks outrage. Oh, more outrage, and the word lefty in it. It's a double win, isn't it? So the Ministry of Justice is upping the amount of money they're spending on the lawyers in these tribunals that happen. The problem is that you can either debate whether the legal aid should be paid for, and that's a separate issue. But if you think it is, or you think the situation as it is, you accept that the current situation is as it is, you need to spend more, because what's happening is the huge delays of some of these cases waiting until a representative available. Some of them, you think, why don't they just have to represent themselves? In cases where these asylum seekers represent themselves, it takes longer. Of course it does. They're sat there Googling, asking for a sidebar with ChatGPT. It must be so annoying to be a judge.
Playing with their watch chain to try and blind the prosecution witness.
Someone sat there as a judge. Someone goes, I'm going to represent myself. It's like when you do a gig and someone says, oh, no, I'm running it, I'll MC it myself. I understand your point, but I still think people are going to be enraged, and I think there's going to be a good deal of disquiet about this.
Yeah, because we have seen that there are lawyers who are exploiting it, and when they're getting £52 an hour through the appeals process, there is an incentive there for them to appeal.
Yeah.
And if they think there's a case, they'll go for it.
Yeah. It is perverse incentives within the law. You cannot stop it once they're there, can
That's
you?
not to say that every asylum seeker doesn't deserve asylum and that every lawyer is a baddie or anything, but there are going to be money here that is wasted.
Yeah, but cutting the money...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, cutting the money wouldn't solve the problem. That's the problem with this.
No.
You need the separate argument about whether it should be...
Gunboats off Calais, that will solve the problem. Josh, the Telegraph have a new outrage on the NCHIs. This is what you were referencing earlier.
Yeah, record non-crime hate incidents. It's all about inflection.
It's Christmas number one.
Record non-hate crime incidents, even if victim does not think it is one, police officers told. So this is a Freedom of Information revealed that the Lancashire Constabulary they were told that it doesn't, in 2019, that actually it doesn't matter if someone takes offence or not. Even if the officer thinks, you know what, that's a bit bit out of order. I'm going to write that up as a crime or a non-crime. So now it's not even a non-hate crime. It's a non-hate, non-victim crime.
Well, this was the thing. The whole point was that it was supposed to be if the victim, for want of a better word, had felt that they'd been subject to hate, even if it hadn't been intentional, that was enough. But this is a third order.
Next level.
Absolutely insane.
It's sort of Judge Dredd. It's woke Judge Dredd. Like, they are the law.
Yes.
The judge, juror, executioner.
Has somebody written a woke Judge Dredd? There's a massive opportunity.
That'd be very funny,
That should be a musical.
That'd be, John Wagner.
The problem here is, though, that the police will be thinking, probably ought to write this down as a hate, because if someone finds out this happened and I didn't think it was a hate crime, then I better write it down. So even if the officers don't think it should be written down, they'll end up doing it anyway.
I mean, I think there is a really valid point there, which is it would be very useful to know what is the psychology of the officers, and I think it would be about time that we spoke to some giving them anonymity and, possibly a silly Mickey Mouse voice or something, but they should be able to explain, why do we do this? Why do we follow it? What is our thinking?
I've seen some of them, you see some of these arrests or some of them in different people's houses, and frankly, some of them are just little fascists. And that is scary. I'm not saying all of them.
Lesbian Nana.
Yeah, she was a woman.
Still to come, the BBC fumble the ball once again, why fathers are no longer needed once the biological clock is ticking, and the dangers of trusting social media, courtesy of The Guardian. We will see in a couple of minutes on Headliners, only on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. The next 24 hours see a return to wet weather in the south with blustery winds. A different story further north where frost and fog will prevail because of high pressure sitting to the north of Scotland. That's keeping winds light and skies clear as we go into Tuesday night. Meanwhile, another low turns up across the southwest. Wet and windy weather into southwest England, South Wales, and then by midnight running along the south coast, pushing into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. The heaviest rain will be along southern counties of England with the risk of localised flooding because it's coming on top of all the wet weather we've recently had, and it's going to be an unsettled but mild start to Wednesday in the south and across central parts of England and Wales. Very different conditions for Scotland and Northern Ireland, where we start with clear spells, frost and some dense fog patches, especially for parts of Northern Ireland. Poor visibility on the roads first thing, so watch out for that. Also some fog patches for southern Scotland, northern England. Chilly start out there. But for the Midlands, East Wales, East Anglia and the southeast, a damp start to the day with the winds pushing outbreaks of rain or showers in from the southwest, and then those winds changing direction as the rain clears into the afternoon and becoming increasingly strong down the eastern side of England. Meanwhile, brightening skies for West Wales, the southwest, as well as northern England and Northern Ireland once any early fog patches clear. A crisp but bright day for northern and eventually western parts of the country, whilst it stays cloudy and breezy further southeast. Thursday starts with outbreaks of rain into the southwest. This rain, generally light and patchy, shouldn't cause too many issues, but it then spills into Northern Ireland as well as parts of Wales, whilst it stays dry and bright further north and east. Friday's similar. We're going to see some rain at times in the west, and it turns milder by Saturday.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Headliners, only on GB News. Welcome back. We have another quick look at Wednesday's front pages, just in case any of you arrived too late. The Telegraph kicked us off with the electric vehicle rules that may be watered down. The Mail, Labour's net zero electric car plan is in chaos. The Eye have a weight loss jab for jobless in Labour drive to get people back to work. The Sun has the cocaine ref in bet probe. And the Express has the dour news that Christmas dinner might cost you 50 quid after the budget mess. They are unable to say why. The Daily Star has the incredible Hulk Hogan. Over to the Times now for our next story, Josh. And the BBC Sports Personality of the Year this year is to be all-female hosted for the first time following the departure of Gary Lineker. But the same restriction does not seem to apply to the BBC Women's Footballer of the Year.
Indeed. Barbara Banda wins BBC Women's Footballer Award despite gender controversy. And she was excluded from the 2022 Women's World Cup in Africa because she had too much testosterone. But there's a slightly looser rules for the FA and various other institutions, football institutions. So she was allowed to play. She scored a couple of goals. She's been
a very good player. If she was to just be judged on her merits, there's no question. But the question is, does she have XY chromosomes? Does she have the is it 46 or something? 40
chromosome.
There's a certain condition, isn't there, which is starting to rise now. It's almost taking over from the trans debate, which I think has been broadly won in principle now. The idea that men, male-bodied,
I think
who present as
I'd say in this office it has.
Yeah. But the intersex type, or whatever you want to call it.
The intersex type, well, this has been sort of a part of it, and the trans debate would use the intersex to sort of prove that sex was a spectrum when it just wasn't.
No.
These were genetic anomalies.
With a bit of chalk in the middle.
Yeah, someone being born with 6 fingers doesn't make human beings a 10-finger...
biting my tongue whatever. Which county said that joke.
So those aliens wouldn't have a clue what you're on about.
And anybody who's intersex is actually, it's a misnomer, intersex. They still belong to one particular sex.
Yeah.
It's just a developmental condition.
But the question is...
Most likely, this person has male chromosomes and is a biological male.
Well, that's what we think, but they're a fairly easy and, frankly, non-intrusive test. But there's a battle, exactly, a cheek swab, which is hardly the worst thing that can happen. You already have to be dope tested with the urine test and so on.
But they're easier cheeks to get to as well, if we bring
Yes.
Well, the urine test is really easy. If you do it standing up, then you're a man. Just wrote that.
Anyway, that's going to make for very interesting viewing. There are a number of people who are absolutely furious already. The Sun now making a rare showing in our measured and sober assessment of the newspaper, Steve. This is a woman who, well, a number of women who want babies without the strings.
Yes, a number of single women choosing to have babies alone triples, prioritising babies over blokes, solo mothers using IVF or sperm donors growing faster than any other groups. I mean, it's a sad story.
You can't say or. I mean, they have to use sperm donors. If they haven't got a husband, using IVF without sperm won't work.
At the moment, but I'd tell you what, you managed to clone from a couple of exes. You definitely have a daughter, but they did it with Dolly the sheep. But the reason it's sad because half of this does seem a little bit man-hating. Like in the old days, you had to put up with a man if you wanted to have a family. And the problem is, if you hate men so much that you're willing to go through this, half of the kids that you're going to have are going to be male. So there's a lot of worry coming down the thing. But it's replacing other routes, and it would replace the traditional route of someone hitting their...
The traditional route?
Well, yes, but someone hitting their 30s, pretending that they're an ideal partner, settling down, having a couple of kids, and then suddenly the resentment kicks in. So hopefully this means we'll see a drop in divorce in a couple of years.
Yeah, well, I mean, presumably, if they've left it till their mid-30s, they've got a good career going and they can afford to just, hire a manny.
Is that?
Well, come along and be a bit of a
I'm
male
available.
presence.
I'm freelance.
I know someone who got pregnant just deliberately, like a sort of one-night stand, basically.
Yeah.
Just went out.
Well, it makes a lot more sense. There are a couple of lesbian comics who have talked about the extraordinary expense and difficulty of getting sperm donors when they wanted to get pregnant within a lesbian relationship.
I know, I've made love to them all.
They make thousands of pounds, apparently, just for a donation, when, as she said, you can just, go to a bloke. It's so easy. Why would you do it?
We're cheaper than
we are so easy. But
I cannot believe we work for anything. It could be...
There's an interesting thing here where Simon Blake, he's the chief executive of Stonewall recently. I think he started there about a year ago. He said, change is far too slow to remove barriers for LGBTQ couples. Essentially, he's talking about lesbians, which is what this article is about. I think this is like...
Is it about lesbians?
Well, this is, yes.
Okay, that one is.
And... It's amazing to see Stonewall actually advocating for lesbians. Well done, Stonewall. Do you remember them? Do you remember those lesbians?
Readers, they are now. Another crushing blow to British heritage, Josh. First, we lose the 800-year-old Smithfield Meat Market, and now Bombardier Ale, which stretches all the way back to 1980.
Yes, I know. You're like. When I got to that bit, I was getting more and more angry. I was like, "How dare they steal the Danish?
Great British brand to stand alongside
the Danish come over here for 44 years. This has been a bedrock of British beer civilization." Yeah, Bombardier among the 11 beers acts as Carlsberg accused of wiping out British heritage. It's kind of famous because it's got a English flag on it.
Smells of Spitfires.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's named after a boxing champion, Billy Wells. It's all a bit tenuous because then he was a bombardier. His rank was I don't know. It seems a little
Not
bit.
enough, is it? I remember a lot of them. They invented the bishop's finger, which they brought in trying to sound like a real ale, but that's quite.
Have you heard of the Ringwood Boondoggle? That's also you better get that in right now.
Heard of it? I've got.
There is one I do know, which is Jennings Cumberland. I do drink that in. That is a Lake District beer. That's quite a nice brew, but you know.
So
if it can't survive on its own merits, then out.
It's capitalism, isn't it? If you want your companies to make money, they all got sold off. They're owned by
taste change. The truth is, taste change, but they can come back again. We've got the recipe. It's not like it's gone forever. If people decide they want warm flat beer with twigs in it again, then that will be, available quite quickly. It doesn't take that long to make.
Yeast, the original yeast they've been separating out.
The old Roger, that was the strong one in the Wicked Lady.
Do what?
Wheatamsted.
Do what with who?
It's a pub called the Wicked Lady. She was a highway woman. Steve, this is in the Daily Mail. Almost reads like a plot from an 80s sitcom about Little White Lie getting out of hand, except, unfortunately, it leads to a brutal decapitation. It's quite unbelievable.
It's terrible. Muslim schoolgirl admits lying her teacher was Islamophobic, which led to him being decapitated by a jihadist because she was suspended for 2 days and worried that her parents would be angry. So this is Samuel Patty. I think that's how you pronounce it. Patty. And so teaching a class about what happened with old Charlie Hebdo, that massacre, showed the illustration, the cartoons, actually pre-warned the class and said, look away if you don't want to see it, but didn't exclude them. Now, she said he'd turfed all of the Muslim kids out.
OK.
This then leads to an online, like you wouldn't believe. I mean, pylon's hardly the right word.
And she was trying to avoid. She'd been caught up in some other disciplinary action or something. He was trying to do. Yeah.
So she's apologised, which seems, thin gruel. But she said she'd ruined the family's lives. And but you lied, and that's terrible in this case. But the real problem is someone who thinks my religion is so important, if someone offends it, I'm going to go and kill... I'm more upset than other people because I'm so religious. That mentality
he's clearly a lunatic, and, if I said what I would suggest, I don't know how Ofcom would feel about it, but I would be quite happy for them to bring the death penalty.
Well, he's dead. No, he's dead. He got killed. Yeah, he's dead.
How did he die?
I believe, shot by the police.
Oh, okay.
No, but here's the thing: it wasn't one guy.
No,
it was encouraged. The father put out a video with some other people, and what's interesting here is it shows so clearly because she says, "Without me, no one would be here." That's what she's saying, and to mirror your point, and it's like, no, without this horrific ideology, that's the problem, and it's nothing to do with ethnicity. The person who carried it out was Russian. He had help from a French-born convert. There's all different people of all different ethnicities. The problem is the ideology, which says that to show a picture of your prophet is enough to cut someone's head off. It's crazy.
And I do, to be honest, I feel sorry for that girl. I mean, she will carry that burden. At the age of 13 and brought up in that kind of... How could she...
she was 13 at the time. It was, 4 years ago?
Very difficult to develop the agency necessary to understand what...
But her dad's in jail.
Yeah. Horrific. No bright side to any of that. Let's move on. The Guardian, Josh, and they take their life in their hands now and warn against poor fact-checking on social media. We won't see this article on X anymore. Online influencers need urgent fact-checking training, warns UNESCO. And this is because... people online were just all idiots. Oh, yeah. Interestingly. So they're talking about how journalists, influencers, need to be trained as journalists. But I would suggest maybe journalists should be trained as journalists. Journalists trained as journalists and influencers treated as influencers.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's the key, isn't it, really?
This shouldn't be about all of the media training that you should get as an influencer.
No.
People should realise, I saw something online, does not give it weight.
No, in the same way that if you spoke to your mate in the pub, And then you said, and then you're trying to explain to your wife when you got home.
Yeah.
where your source of information.
Yes, just because they've got nice lights, like a key light and all the nice stuff, doesn't mean they know what they're talking about.
In fact, of course, well, the one thing, and we've all known for years, is how unreliable actors are in giving their political views or insights, because the one thing they're good at is speaking convincingly about things that aren't true.
They're even worse than comics.
Yeah, but also influencers are motivated by the clicks, not the truth.
Yeah.
You need to remember that.
Absolutely. GB News, on the other hand, rock solid. Still to come, our wacky final section with non-binary comedians, deviant rock stars, and the truth behind baldness. See you in a couple of minutes.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
The former royal correspondent for The Sun newspaper, Charles Ray. Good to see you this morning, Charles. And so good to see Catherine back to work with a hug.
It is. It's fantastic. I mean, there are a few royal jobs that, touch at the heartstrings, and this is certainly one of those. And I think it's the first time we've actually seen Catherine back in, a royal duty since she herself confirmed that she'd finished chemotherapy.
Done so much, haven't they, the Princess of Wales and the King, to raise awareness for these cancers.
Here we have both the King and Catherine having, explained to the nation and the rest of the world that they were battling or are still battling cancer, just like everyone else.
How sincere is all of this? I mean, it looks like she's a wonderful, kind, caring woman, but I don't know. I've never met her.
Well, she is a wonderful, kind, caring woman. That is without a shadow of a doubt. And William heard about this young lady on a visit to the air ambulance, and they invited her because she's a photographer, so she wanted to take. She has a bucket list and wanted to take pictures of an investiture. I mean, make no mistake, people like Catherine are just absolutely wonderful in what they do and how they do it. I mean, and Catherine is the superstar of the royal family. Of that, there is no doubt.
It's the cockles of my heart, Charles. It really does. It's really good to see you. Thanks very much.
All the
Thanks,
best.
Charles. Thanks. And Liz, who is this 16-year-old amateur photographer who was hugged by Princess of Wales yesterday, said it was a dream come true.
I bet it was.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners for the final stretch. Steve Metro and David Walliams, who says he is probably non-binary. I'll help, David. You're a bloke and you're 53 years old.
So David Williams says he's probably non-binary, probably trying to get work at the BBC. If you want to get a contract there again, this is a strong move. But this was in an interview. He says best-selling children's author. Not what I thought he would have been known for in the interview, fair enough. But he said that when he was younger, if we had the language we have now, he would have thought of himself differently and identified differently. I think that is fascinating because it shows the same thoughts would have been there, but only by having the language, then you get steered into a different conclusion. Because he was saying how he used to be, a bit different, I suppose, the way you describe it. I think that this is the way that it should be viewed. Regardless of what you do, dress however you want, do whatever you want, you should presume that the definition of man includes that, because you are one.
This is exactly my point. And I remember people, and actually I probably dressed, you know, and acted a bit camp or whatever, and used to enjoy those kind of slightly cross-dressing, what would you call it, the fancy dress, Vickers and tarts, and you'd always go against the grain or whatever.
Never happened
Plenty
to
of
us,
people
all
did
you,
that.
just you.
Anyway, listen, all my point is there was plenty of exploration of that kind. It wasn't invented in 2014 or whatever it is, but you didn't expect people to use plural pronouns in order to acknowledge your, you know, some strange, weird, unknowable.
Exactly, compelled speech because you went to a gay nightclub. That's what he's basically saying. I went to a gay nightclub and danced. Whoop-de-doo. Wearing a skirt or whatever. Like, these are not... They don't make you some strange third sex. And you're a guy who's just wearing a dress.
There's this weird suspicion with Williams, isn't there, that there's something nastier lurking under the surface. I won't say any more than that.
Well,
but,
to be fair, though, I should say, it says the Little Britain Star, he said, because I went to Bristol University and did a drama degree. He actually is not
class,
theatre kids,
but this will hasten its demise.
Yes.
Once he's signed up to it. I mean, he really is jumping on a bandwagon as the wagon goes off a cliff.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Funny enough, he has form on that front. He bought a house, two houses on the seafront in Brighton, what is famously known as Millionaires Row, and spent a fortune on having them combined into a single palatial beachfront residence in which he could enjoy his superstar splendour with his new model wife. And by the time the conversion had been completed, the marriage was over, and it went straight back on the market. Lesson there. Josh, bizarrely naive question from The Guardian about the defiant appeal of rock and rap stars to survive allegations of criminal behaviour.
Well, it's a little bit more, because Sean Diddy Combs is accused of sexual abuse. Why are his music streams rising? So that is quite, artists have in the past, for, Picasso, whoever it is, there are geniuses out there, and Sean Diddy Combs is not one of them.
Jerry Lee Lewis,
and they were not morally what we would necessarily agree with, but their art survived on. P. Diddy is not a great artist. And is also seemingly a bad human being.
Do you like rap enough to have a valid opinion? Because
I do. No, absolutely. He's a producer. He's a hustler.
Yeah.
He was very good at discovering talent. Notorious B.I.G., who was a great rapper.
But the accusations against him are not simply, as with Jerry Lee Lewis, married a young girl or whatever, or various people have been caught
next
up.
level.
It's like kind of organised crime kind of tier, isn't it? You know, and coercive behaviour, really horrific.
Yeah, and blackmail and various other things. So the idea, but it is interesting that his numbers have jumped so much in that his YouTube channel's increased like 7 million. He was getting 9 million, and now it's gone up to 13 million a month on Spotify.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is that it's not good music. No. His music. So they're saying that it's because people are curious, and that's enough. And that's the sort of sad state of affairs that. The quality of the art.
They're listening for clues, or they just want to know what all the fuss is about?
Well, both. They want to. They sort of like, I'll check that guy out, and then they also want to look for clues. But
Steve,
I worry that they don't take this as a marketing strategy. Like Chesney Hawkes must be thinking, no one talks about me anymore. I know what I'll do. Get the baby lotion. Don't do it, Chesney.
The one and only. Steve, it would appear that we are now crossing the well-known threshold after which you cannot split up before Christmas. This is in The Star.
Yeah. Doctors reveal why women experience boyfriend blindness over Christmas, a phrase that no one's ever heard of before, so you have to read 3 paragraphs down to get it. Basically, it's ignoring the red flags, modern phrase, ignoring the things you hate about your partner.
Yeah.
But again, of course, you'd wait until after Christmas. You want to get the gifts.
Yeah.
We will cover the same story from the backside of it in January, when it'll be like, oh, there's been an increase of divorce and breakups. Because there is every year. It is TikTok.
Blue Monday.
Yeah. And it's this mental thing about thinking the end of the year is this arbitrary end, but you might as well wait to the end of it and start afresh next year.
Absolutely. Well, we dealt with that very admirably. Josh, I can't help being somewhat self-conscious asking you to cover this one. Then again, none of us can afford to be complacent. You've got about a minute.
Yes, scientists reveal the common habit that can make you bald, essentially alcohol. It increases the risk by 1.4 times. Something, a byproduct of alcohol is acetyl, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, that one.
But it does say that being bald makes you non-threatening form of social dominance. Bald men are thought to be more socially mature, intelligent, educated and honest compared to men with a full head of hair. And I would 100% concur to all those things.
Yes.
I don't know if you feel differently. Do you?
How do you feel since you really lent into it? It's quite recent, isn't it? You've probably shaved your head, you trimmed the beard. You look 10 years younger. I'm sure everyone's told you that.
Yeah, good. I mean, I don't know if I feel more mature or intelligent or any of those things. Exactly.
But cleaner, you've never tried to deny it, have you?
No, not at all. No. It went so early in life. But annoyingly, I don't drink. So this couldn't even win either way.
Look back at the old comb-overs, though. Every time I see Robert Robinson hosting Ask the Family, what an era. Anyway, the show is nearly over. We don't have time to tell you not to boil crabs alive, Christmas ruined. But other than that, we've got through all the stories. Here's a quick last recap on the front pages. The Telegraph: electric vehicle rules may be watered down. The Mail: stronger. Labour's net zero electric car plan is in chaos. The weight loss jabs for jobless in Labour drive to get people back to work on the front cover of the Eye. Sun: Coke ref in bet probe. The Express: Christmas dinner is hit £50 after budget mess. And the Daily Star: the Incredible Hulk. That's it for tonight's show. What a show it was. We could go through the highlights, but you'll find them on YouTube and Twitter. Sorry, formerly now known as X. Thank you to my guests, Steve and Josh. Leo Kirby hosting tomorrow night, joined by Jonathan Kogan and Adam Kumas. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Otherwise, thank you for your company. Sleep well and good night.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. The next 24 hours see a return to wet weather in the south with blustery winds. A different story further north where frost and fog will prevail because of high pressure sitting to the north of Scotland. That's keeping winds light and skies clear as we go into Tuesday night. Meanwhile, another low turns up across the southwest. Wet and windy weather into southwest England, South Wales, and then by midnight running along the south coast, pushing into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. The heaviest rain will be along southern counties of England with the risk of localised flooding because it's coming on top of all the wet weather we've recently had, and it's going to be an unsettled but mild start to Wednesday in the south and across central parts of England and Wales. Very different conditions for Scotland and Northern Ireland, where we start with clear spells, frost and some dense fog patches, especially for parts of Northern Ireland. Poor visibility on the roads first thing, so watch out for that. Also some fog patches for southern Scotland, northern England. Chilly start out there. But for the Midlands, East Wales, East Anglia and the southeast, a damp start to the day with the winds pushing outbreaks of rain or showers in from the southwest, and then those winds changing direction as the rain clears into the afternoon and becoming increasingly strong down the eastern side of England. Meanwhile, brightening skies for West Wales, the southwest, as well as Northern England and Northern Ireland once any early fog patches clear. A crisp but bright day for northern and eventually western parts of the country, whilst it stays cloudy and breezy further southeast. Thursday starts with outbreaks of rain into the southwest. This rain generally light and patchy, shouldn't cause too many issues, but it then spills into Northern Ireland as well as parts of Wales, whilst it stays dry and bright further north and east. Friday's similar. We're going to see some rain at times in the west, and it turns milder by Saturday.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's our festive treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest ever Great British giveaway. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion. For your chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. As 1,100 car jobs go in Luton, I'm going to ask, is the British car industry dying? Have we made a massive mistake going for EVs in the way that we have? The government says it's going to tackle worklessness. Big debate in the House of Commons on it today. They're going to employ a lot more medical staff to help young people with mental problems get back to work. But will it be a success? I hope we heard all this stuff before. A petition has reached nearly 3 million calling for there to be a general election. Does it really make any difference? And Trump tariffs. He's not even been inaugurated yet he continues to dominate global news. He's going to put tariffs up massively, or so he says. Can we, as the UK, avoid them? But first, before all of that, let's get the news with Katie Bowen.